In 1970, a luxury car company built an engine so powerful, NASCAR banned it before it could race. But the real story? A conspiracy of corporate sabotage, a secret rivalry with Ford's screaming yellow zonker, and a mechanic's diary that reveals this engine was just getting started. Officially, it was too big. But the truth? It was about more than just size. This is the story of how Buick broke the mold, challenged the system, and built one of the most underrated legends in American muscle car history. The birth of the Torque King. While Ford's Boss 302, nicknamed the Screaming Yellow Zonker by engineers, dominated headlines, Buick's quiet genius, Clifford Studeker, was plotting a revolution. At GM's Flint, Michigan plant, Studeker's team bored out the 430 to 455 cubic inches, adding a radical high-lift camshaft and reinforced connecting rods. But Studeker's obsession? Torque. You can't fake torque. It either throws you back in your seat, or it doesn't. 510 pound-feet of torque, enough to yank tree stumps. But Buick lowballed horsepower at 360 to dodge insurance hikes. Dynos later revealed 425 real horses. Motor Trend's 1970 test shocked the industry. 13.38 seconds in the quarter mile, beating the Hemi Cuda. But Ford wasn't laughing. A leaked memo from Ford's racing division called it a tractor motor with a death wish. Ford had its wild Mustangs. Chrysler was flexing with the Charger and the Hemi, and GM was hitting hard with legends like the Chevy Camaro and Pontiac GTO. These cars were fast, loud, and meant to turn heads wherever they went. But while these brands were busy chasing glory, there was a quieter contender waiting in the wings. The brand you'd expect to see in your grandfather's driveway, classy, smooth, and built for comfort, not chaos. But behind the scenes, Buick was cooking up something no one expected. When they unleashed the Grand Sport 455, it wasn't just a fast car, it was a full-blown shockwave. Under the hood sat a 7.5-liter engine that didn't just keep up with the big boys, it outran them. It was big, bold, and brutal. And the best part? Nobody saw it coming. That's exactly how Buick wanted it. That monster under the hood, the 455, earned its reputation for a reason. Buick didn't just throw a big engine into the car and call it a day. They started with their already impressive 430 cubic inch, then bored it out to 455. But the real magic happened when they slapped on the Stage 1 performance package. This wasn't just a few tweaks, it was a full transformation. The engine got bigger valves for better airflow, a high-lift camshaft that gave it an aggressive lope and serious mid-range power, and a tuned 4-barrel carburetor that sucked in air like a jet engine. But here's the kicker. Buick wasn't exactly being honest about how powerful the 455 really was. They officially rated it at 360 horsepower. But let's be real. That was Buick playing it safe. Most experts and gearheads agree it was probably making well over 400 horsepower. Some say even 425. So why understate it? Simple. Insurance companies back then were cracking down hard on high-horsepower cars. If the numbers were too wild, premiums shot through the roof. So Buick sandbagged the rating to keep things affordable for buyers. Smart move. In real-world tests, the truth came out. Motor Trend took a Stage 1 down the quarter mile in 1970 and clocked a blistering 13.38 seconds at over 105 miles per hour, faster than a Hemi Cuda and right in line with the LS6 Chevelle. Years later, dyno tests on a bone stock rebuild showed nearly 382 horsepower without breaking a sweat. This wasn't just fast for a Buick, it was fast, period. The kind of performance that made the Stage 1 a street legend before most people even knew what it was. The ban. But as powerful as it was, the Buick 455 never got to prove itself where it really mattered. NASCAR. As Buick's 455 Stage 1 built a fearsome street rep, GM toyed with the idea of putting it on the oval track. Insiders report that the company began prepping a lightweight GSX prototype, planning to take the 455 to Daytona. But when the entry papers came in, they were blocked. And that wasn't because it lacked speed or reliability. It was banned before it even had a chance. NASCAR had a strict engine displacement limit of 427 cubic inches, roughly 7.0 liters. The Buick 455? It clocked in at 7.5 liters. Just a little over the limit, but enough to get it kicked out. On the surface, it looked like a simple rules issue, but many believe there was more going on. Buick's 455 had one fatal flaw. It was too good. Other GM brands, especially Chevrolet and Pontiac, began to feel the heat. Buick, once known for Grandma's Sunday car, was now dominating drag strips and humiliating Corvettes on the low-end torque charts. Buick wasn't part of NASCAR's inner circle of factory-backed favorites, and the idea of a big, quiet luxury brand walking in and wiping the floor with everyone didn't sit well with the establishment. NASCAR had to keep the established order intact. A luxury brand like Buick competing at the same level as Chrysler's Hemi and the Chevelle, that wasn't part of the plan. And when corporate politics collided with racing politics, the result was inevitable. The 455 was quietly retired, and it never got to compete on the oval tracks, and that only added to its mystique. GM performance insider Dan Mitchell called it a targeted ban. Buick was on the verge of dominating. The ruling wasn't about safety, it was politics. Conflict, power, jealousy. That's what kept the 455 from its rightful NASCAR legacy. Buick's 455 could have been a game-changer in NASCAR, shaking up the track's hierarchy and giving the traditional muscle car brands a run for their money. In the face of that kind of threat, it wasn't just about engine size anymore. It was about maintaining the status quo. And that's why, in the end, the 455 was never given the chance it deserved. It wasn't just too big for NASCAR. It was too big for the muscle car world as a whole. Buick's success could have shaken things up in ways that no one was ready for. But in the end, the Stage 1 wasn't about the victory that never came. It was about the legacy of a car that almost was. Street dominance. With NASCAR off limits, the Buick 455 found its battleground on the streets and drag strips, and that's where its legend really took off. While the flashy names were busy chasing trophies, Buick owners were quietly handing out beatdowns at stoplights and weekend strip races. The car didn't need decals or loud paint jobs to prove a point. It had torque, lots of it, and that meant it could launch like a rocket. Even in a heavier body, the Stage 1 could pull low 13-second quarter-mile times with ease, leaving lighter, high-revving competitors scrambling to catch up. And it wasn't just quick in a straight line. It was smooth, stable, and surprisingly refined for a car with this much grunt. That combination of brute force and everyday drivability made it a secret weapon for people in the know. While everyone else was busy showing off, Buick was quietly winning, and that made the Stage one of the most underrated muscle cars of its time. Today, the Buick 455 Stage 1 is a hidden gem in American automotive history. While names like the Chevelle SS or Hemi Cuda get most of the spotlight, collectors and enthusiasts who know their stuff hold the Stage 1 in high regard. Why? Because it was a sleeper. It didn't need flashy stripes or wild spoilers to prove itself. It let the numbers and the burned rubber do the talking. And because Buick wasn't a big name in the performance scene, these cars were produced in far smaller numbers. That makes them rarer, more unique, and in many ways, more desirable to those looking for something different. A well-kept 1974 55 in today's market can command serious money, not just because of its performance, but because it represents a moment when Buick stepped out of its comfort zone and built a true American muscle icon. For gearheads, it's a reminder that legends don't always come from where you'd expect, and sometimes the quietest brands make the loudest impact. The man behind the monster. Behind every legendary machine is a mind that dared to be different. In the case of the 455, that mind was Clifford Studeker, Buick's quiet but brilliant powertrain engineer. While most muscle car engines were developed with flamboyance and aggressive marketing in mind, Studeker took a more methodical and focused approach. He didn't just want to make a big engine, he wanted to make a fast, efficient, and reliable powerhouse. His background in precision engineering helped him create an engine that delivered torque like a sledgehammer, while still maintaining Buick's signature smoothness. According to internal documents from GM's performance division, Studeker was obsessed with durability under stress, which is why the 455 was tested under conditions that shattered other engines. Studeker once said in an interview, "We weren't building an engine for the showroom. We were building one that could own the street and survive the track, politics and betrayal." In 1971, Buick prepared a lightweight GSX prototype for NASCAR. Driver Wild Bill Flynn, a dirt track legend, was set to pilot it. But at a secret GM board meeting, Chevrolet and Pontiac executives lobbied to kill the project. "Buick's a luxury brand, not a racer," argued a Chevrolet VP in internal memos. "NASCAR's 7.0-liter rule? A smokescreen. The real reason? Fear." Meanwhile, Ford engineers mocked Buick's ban in press interviews, dubbing the 455 Grandpa's grocery getter. But on the streets, it was a killer. While NASCAR crumbled, Buick's street cred exploded. At the 1972 NHRA Winter Nationals, underdog driver Dave Bortman piloted a Stage 1 to a superstock win, humiliating Ford's factory teams. Mechanics like Joe Lunati, who built engines for Don Garlits, swore by its reliability. "You could run it all day, then drive it home," Lunati said. "The Hemi, it'd be in pieces. Ford guys called us Buick bombers. By 73, they refused to line up unless we added weight. We still won." Now, you might think that Buick would ride the wave of success after the Grand Sport 455 explosive reputation. But here's the thing. The muscle car era was coming to a close by the mid-1970s, and despite Buick's triumph, they couldn't hold on to the spotlight for long. The world was changing, and the era of high-performance muscle cars was soon to be overshadowed by the oil crisis, stricter emissions laws, and a general shift toward more fuel-efficient vehicles. By 1975, the Buick 455 was a thing of the past. The engine was replaced by more docile and environmentally conscious power plants, as muscle cars took a sharp downturn. Insurance premiums were rising, and gas prices were skyrocketing. Performance wasn't as much of a priority anymore, and Buick, unfortunately, got swept up in the change. The 455 was never able to reach its true potential on the track or on the street in the way it deserved, and as the decade rolled on, performance models began to dwindle from Buick's lineup. But in the years that followed, the 455 was still there, quietly waiting, unnoticed by many, but loved by those who knew what it could do. A vehicle ahead of its time, squashed by changing tastes and regulations, but never truly forgotten. Despite the engine's dominance, the writing was on the wall by 1973. Rising insurance premiums, oil crises, and federal emission standards began squeezing performance out of Detroit. But what made the Buick story more painful was this. They killed the 455 before it even reached its peak. Executives at Buick, eager to pivot back to luxury branding, cut performance funding even as engineers begged for another shot. Stage 2. Conspiracy. In 1973, Studeker's team developed Stage 2, aluminum heads, forged pistons, and a rumored 500-plus horsepower. But Buick's brass, panicked by the oil crisis, axed it. Engineer Jim Bell's recently uncovered diary reads, "Stage 2 was ready. They scrapped it in a dumpster behind Plant 36. Why kill a winner? GM's internal documents blame brand alignment. Translation, Buick's luxury dealers hated the grease monkey crowd." The last Stage 1 rolled off the line in 1974, But rumors persist. A mechanic in Ohio claims he found a Stage 2 engine in a barn in 1991. It wasn't just fast, he said, it was angry. Lead engineer Jim Bell later revealed, "We had the dyno numbers, we had the car. We just didn't have the support from the suits." The 455 could have been a world beater. You may be wondering, why does the Buick 455 Stage 1 still hold such a powerful place in automotive history? The answer lies in its sheer underdog status. This wasn't just another muscle car from the big names. This was Buick, a brand that wasn't even supposed to compete in the muscle car wars, coming in and delivering a car that could take on anyone. The Stage 1 is special because it represents a moment when underdogs stood tall, when companies like Buick defied expectations and created something that still makes car enthusiasts' hearts race today. When the 455 roared to life, it was a reminder that it wasn't just the established muscle car kings that could rule the road. Buick showed that with the right design, engineering, and commitment to performance, they could compete at the highest level. And that's why collectors, historians, and performance car lovers alike still talk about it with reverence. The Stage 1 represents everything that was great about the muscle car era: the raw power, the freedom, the pure driving experience. And while it might not have had the same fame as the Chevelle SS or the Hemi Cuda, it carved out its own unique legacy, one that's only grown over time. Today, the 455 is a hidden gem, a reminder that legends don't always come from where you would expect. What if a Stage 2 had raced? Was NASCAR's ban justified or a GM conspiracy? Could the 455 have killed the boss 302? The 455 legacy is a web of what-ifs. Ford's boss, 302, retired a hero. The Hemi became a legend. But the Stage 1? It's the ghost that haunts Detroit. A reminder that power isn't just about speed, it's about who's willing to fight for it. This is Paul from Rare Car Stories. Catch you next time.